The words of that song couldn't be more in tune to what we're going to talk about tonight. So thank you, Danny, for leading that song. Tonight we're going to practically apply what we talked about this morning. This morning we talked about the idea of the family minister and the role of the family minister. And tonight we're going to talk about how we can do this practically, strengthening God's families at Richmond. And we're going to begin we're just going to go through each one of those parts again. We're not going to read the scriptures again, but we're going to go through each one of those parts of the job description, and then we're going to talk about some ideas that I have and some ideas I've stolen from some of you as we've had discussions. And so I wanted to talk about the practical application of what we've done. Now, more than one of you has came to me since this morning and said, I don't know that you can do all of that. And you're absolutely right. I can't do all this. But we can do all this. And it may not be instant. It may not be this month, next month. But the idea is over the long term, we can build things like this that I believe will strengthen the Christian home here in this congregation. And so the first thing came up with the discussion of parents of young children. They said that we should develop, or they'd like to see a home Bible study plan for parents of elementary, middle, and high school students. And the idea that we would create something that's age specific that we could give to parents. And so maybe a 5 to 10 minute Bible study a night where you talk about a topic, you give them a quick outline, and they just get it together, have an activity together. And the idea would be that parents can use this to build that Christian home in their own home. And I guess it's actually true. I made my children read the Bible with me all the way through at least once, and I think we went all the way through twice. And I believe that was helpful, there's no doubt, but I could have done it better, I believe. And so something like this that we can give to parents will be something that helps them as they develop those home Bible studies. I've talked with more than one of you about offering a parent or class for parents on Sunday mornings to give strategies to strengthen families. There's a lot of parents in this congregation who have faithful adult children that can give guidance on how they got there. There's a lot of literature out there that we can use to help strengthen families. Because I know when I had young children, there were some days I said, man, I don't know what to do here. Now they're 24, 22, and 21, and there are some days that I say, I don't know what to do here. And I thought I signed on to 18 in a day, but it didn't work out like that. And so there's really no age at which parents can't learn about ways to help their children. And so I believe that offering classes for parents to help that would be helpful. Encourage parents to conduct Bible drills with their children at home. I did the class for the K through 5, and then we broke into 3rd through 5th, and we were singing the New Testament songs together. And I told every one of those children, I'm 56 years old, and if you ask me to say the books of the New Testament, I don't know that I can. I'd have to sing them for you. And that's the way I've been looking up books in the New Testament since I was a very small child. I've not learned an Old Testament song good enough or well enough to do that. But those sorts of things, the Apostles' Song, the Days of Creation, there's things that we can do as parents that make those kids remember that. And we can develop those drills for parents. And then encourage parents to have their children at Bible study whenever we meet. Because the kids gain a lot from Bible study. It is absolutely difficult to get kids to Bible study every time. There's no doubt about it, but you can do it. And so the idea of encouragement, that we can encourage each other to get the children to Bible study, we can do it. And so that would be the ways that I would say, some ideas to work with the families of youth to get that foundation of knowledge. The second idea, developing teams, y'all had already started before I got here. I know the FIT teams have been in discussion for a while. Now, I'm not sure when they're going to be rolled out. I think it's going to be pretty quickly. And the idea is that there are these teams that are going to work together on task-oriented things that they can get to know each other doing that work. And the task will be decided at some point, but the idea is you have these groups that get together and do these tasks. And as they do these tasks, they get to know one another and they build fellowship. The Connect teams, I was asked Tom Heiser last night about exactly what that is. And the idea is that there will be small groups that get together in people's homes and they study the Bible together in their homes. I've been parts of those before, and you really do connect with those groups in ways that you won't in a corporate worship service. And so the idea of building teams through those Connect groups or Connect teams is a really good idea. Some of you look at REM and you say, I'm already tired of Dave talking about REM, and this is only the second time I've talked about REM from this pulpit. But it's a great tool to help connect you to other folks. I've gotten to learn REM, and there's these interests and something else. And the first time I filled out the involvement sheet, I said, I'm not doing that, just like most of you. I said, because how's that going to help me connect with the church? And then Phil explained it to me, and I said, oh, well, then that does make sense. And so skills and interests, that's what it was. So the skills was very short. But the interest, there were lots of interests that I had. And the idea is that by looking in Realm and connecting people with the same interests, then that will build teams to do things together. And so the Fit, the Connect, the Realm, all of those are ways that we can connect. In terms of spiritual growth, when I was here, I was not in charge of it, I attended it, a family retreat, at least one. And I thought that was such a fabulous experience. And so I would like to work with folks to start doing an annual family retreat. Now, I know that we do a family workshop. I'm not sure that's what it's called. But the family retreat would be a little bit different than that. But the idea is we get together out of this building and get together and learn the Bible together and connect with one another through spiritual growth. Spiritual sprouts is a term I stole from Starkville Church of Christ. So I've just given them credit for it. From now on, it's not plagiarism. But what they use that term for, they take the kids out and they do a children's worship. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is we start a group for kids that are K through 5, kind of like the middle and high school group. And I don't know if y'all went out on any Wednesday night after the Wednesday night Bible study, but there's all kinds of kids out there having all kinds of fun. And that, I believe the interns were really the ones that got it started, so thank y'all for doing that. But that energy we can continue throughout the year if we can get the adults to organize it. And the really cool thing about that is your kids have friends that you don't know their parents very well. And by doing things like this, you get to know their parents. And we can do Bible studies and grow these children spiritually through that Spiritual Sprouts program. The next is outreach. And one of the things that I've been overwhelmed with is the outreach efforts by this congregation. I'm very impressed. I know that if y'all know what's going on, y'all are impressed as well. And so the idea would be that we strengthen the existing outreach programs by getting more people involved in the outreach program. Y'all have heard me talk this morning about Scouts. I've been with Scouts since my 24-year-old was 6, so I guess that's 18 years. And in that time, I've seen a lot of good and bad things happen in Scouts. But if we're going to have Scouts in this building, one of the ways that we can get them more involved in our congregation is by ministering to them. And one of the things one of the parents suggested was, why don't we fix them a meal once a semester and invite all the Scouts and their parents to come in and eat with the congregation. And we sit and we talk to them, because in any Scout troop, not everybody's going to that congregation. And so it would give us the opportunity to minister to them in ways that we're not currently ministering with them. Another thing that Starkville did that I think is a fabulous idea, both of my boys went on this. Grace didn't go because of 2020. But every year they would take the high school seniors, and then whoever else wanted to go on a mission trip to a foreign country. And they'd go for 2 weeks, and during that 2 weeks, they would usually distribute food, run a vacation Bible school, and help build homes. And the idea behind it was that you're getting people in America, because we are so blessed, and so many times we don't even realize it till we go somewhere else. And the kids see that poverty. They see the lifestyle that's going on there, and it gives them a good appreciation for what they already have, but it also gives them opportunities to share the gospel in ways that they would never get if they didn't go on something like that. And so I believe with enough planning, we can do that for this congregation as well. And so that's another vision I have in terms of outreach. The next area is youth ministry and youth education. For those of you that were here when we were here earlier till 2012, we were heavily involved in Lads to Leaders. I don't think, most of y'all have not seen Will lead singing. James and Will both lead singing regularly, and they're both far better than their father is as a song leader. But those of you that were here probably remember Will arguing with his dad and crying constantly, saying, "I'll never lead singing. I can't sing, Dad. Why are you making me do this?" And sure enough, I kept making him. His voice changed, and now he's a great song leader, loves song leading. Had he gotten the opportunity to quit, he'd have probably quit. But his dad is more hard-headed than he is. And so Lads to Leaders were and my kids did speech, my kids did song leading, they did puppets, they did all these things because they would go to the convention. But what we don't often talk about is there's a lot of things that you have nothing to do with the convention. And in Lads to Leaders, they have a lot of year-round activities that I think are wonderful. The first one I'll talk about is Centurion of Scripture. I can't remember which one of the Shade Boys it was when we were here, but he memorized Matthew 5, 6, and 7. That's amazing. I can't even memorize Matthew 5, 1 through 12 and get it right every time. And he got all 3 chapters. That's 100, I believe it's 100 verses. And so we could help kids learn those 100 verses. And I know that some of the folks have talked about that tree that y'all saw out in the lobby. The idea is memory verses on that tree will get you up that tree. You can incorporate that into the Centurion of Scripture as well, and the kids memorize verses. The second one is know the books. That's easy for a lot of us, but it's not easy for everybody. And so you show someone that you can say Matthew through Revelation and Genesis through the last book in the Old Testament, or all 66 books together. And that is an award that you get in Lads to Leaders. Another one is Good Samaritan. Good Samaritans is exactly what it sounds like. The kids throughout the year get together and they go do service projects to help people. I was eating lunch with Owen and Rhonda, and Owen, well, you know, if Ron and Owen are doing it, then Rhonda's doing it. Rhonda was running Good Samaritans when we were here, and they were at the nursing home twice a month doing things for the folks there. And so Good Samaritan is another program that you can use in Lads to Leader. Read the Word. The idea of that is you read the Bible through in a year. Many of you have never done that. I was 40-something before I read it all the way through in a year. And that's something that is great for the kids to have a goal like that, to read the Word. Teach to teach. The idea is that our middle and high schoolers basically become teaching assistants for some other teacher. And they work with the teacher of that class to be a teaching assistant. Grace did that when she was in Lads to Leaders. Now she runs a 2-year-old class by herself and I guess she does a fabulous job. They won't let me go in there. But nobody has ever complained that she's not doing a fabulous job. Year-round song leading and year-round speech. Jason said that y'all do year-round song leading already, but that's another great opportunity for people to learn to lead singing. The Bible Bowl test is you don't go to the convention. You study the Bible Bowl chapters, and then you take a test, and they grade the test. And so the idea is that you are doing that year-round. And then finally, they have these, well, they have a lot more, so I'll just stop here. But they have these programs called Gifts and Guard. And the idea is that you take middle and high schoolers, put them in gender-specific classes, and talk about the programs that or talk about the current issues and controversies and give them a biblical foundation for that. And so all of those are things that you can do or we can do through Lads to Leaders. The next thing you see on that slide is the BSA Servant Leadership Award for both member and non-member families. What the BSA Servant Leadership Award is, it's a program that, for example, there are 3 different levels that the Church of Christ has. And they give and I've done it several times, so they give the mentor this book. And they say, these are what the kids have to do. The last 2 I did it with, I would go over there every other Sunday night for, I think it was 6 months. No, it couldn't have been that long. 4 months after worship service. They would feed me because they knew that would get me there. And we would go through the book together. And they did things like, so one of the challenges that they had was write an article for your church bulletin. The boy in that family wrote an article for the church bulletin, which started every month now. There's a youth writing an article in the church bulletin because of that boy starting it. His sister was the second one. They also gathered money for missionaries and toys for missionaries and sent over $350 worth of stuff to missionary children. And those are things that you do together. The one that I remember the most is there's a lesson on modesty. And so I told the parents who were sitting there, I said, well, if y'all want to cover this, then y'all go ahead and just let me know you covered it, because you and I may have different ideas about what modesty is in the Bible. And they said, that's right, and that's why you're going to cover it. And so we did have different ideas about modesty, but it prompted questions that they got different answers about, because my idea of modesty is a little bit different than a lot of people's in terms of those sorts of things. And so all of that is part of this Servant Leadership Award. You can do it for elementary, middle, and high school, 3 different awards. It doesn't have to be Scouts. It can be other kids using the same curriculum. They won't get the award, but they will get the training, and that, I believe, is far more important than the award. The elders have charged me and Travis to put together a curriculum for K through 12. The Explorers is already going on, so we're going to start with the middle and high school and kind of build off the Explorers. And the idea is that when a kid comes into middle school, they know what they're going to cover for the next 3 years. And then they go to high school, they know what they're going to cover for 4 years. And so that way it's a well thought out plan that the kids can get as they go through this journey. And then adult high school, a well-defined curriculum with regular return to basics refreshers. The elders have asked that for the middle and high school this upcoming quarter, we put together a curriculum of return to basics with the idea, much of what the adults did in the class this year here in the auditorium is go back and cover those biblical facts and understand those biblical facts better and be challenged on those biblical facts. And so that's what we're going to start incorporating fairly regularly, with the idea that those things are really important and need to be renewed regularly. Adult college, high school mentoring of younger students. When I was in grad school, I run a mentoring class at Mississippi State, and I've been doing it for years, but I did not willingly become a mentor. I was attending a rural congregation out about 30 minutes from Starkville, and one of the parents came to me and she said, "You were in the military, right?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Our son is having some problems. Would you be willing to spend some time with him?" I said, "Sure." And they said, "We will pay for you to go," again, because they knew what got me there. There was a restaurant called Traceway. They said, "If you'll take him to supper on Wednesday night before church, we'll pay for your supper." I said, "I'm there." And so we started that relationship, I believe, when he was 15, and we continued for 3 years. And every Wednesday night, practically every Wednesday night, they only paid for the first 1 or 2, we would go to that restaurant and we would eat together. I didn't think I was mentoring. I thought I was eating at Traceway with a 15, 16, and 17-year-old kid. But because we had these conversations and we did these things together, we grew this relationship, and he dropped out of school, but he got his GED and he joined the military and is a successful human being today and still attends church as far as I know. And so that's the sort of thing that I believe we can do with our students here. And so all of us can be mentors. It doesn't require a lot of intellect. It just requires time, energy, and patience. And so we can do this as a mentoring program for the younger students. And then I believe we should or can increase the service ministry for students. When Jack came up and talked the other day about his ministry, I pulled him off to the side and I said, if we ever had the younger kids go to the nursing home, or not nursing home, go to the older folks' house that are homebound on a Saturday and just sing and do a Bible study with them, 3 or 4 of them in a Saturday. He said, Nick and I are already talking about that. Go talk to Nick. And so I went, and Nick has a great idea. This is Nick's idea, not Dave's. But the idea is that we would get kids together and take them to these older folks. If you've ever sang with older people, they absolutely love you singing with them. When kids sing with them, it's far better than that. And so the idea is do these sorts of things to help our children learn about service. And then the last point, follow up with families to communicate their needs to elders and other ministers. We talked about this morning home visits by the family minister and others. And one of you texted me this afternoon and said, I don't have any phone calls from the 662 area code. When do you want to come eat at my house? And so I've already got somebody else to go see. Again, the home visits are not about me going in and meddling in your business spiritually. I'll love to talk to you about spiritual things. But what the home visits do is it gets me to know you and you to know me. Some of you know me, but many of you do not. I don't know how many of you know this, but I went and visited Hannah Gentry last week, I believe it was. And I've known Hannah and Lee for a long, long time, but only during that conversation did I find out, and you may not know this, Lee was engaged when he met Hannah. And he traded the other one in on Hannah. And so the idea of getting to know people like that in ways, there's all kinds of things that we learn about each other when you spend time in each other's homes. And you grow closer together by doing these things. And I hope to be part of that. Shared meals, we're going to be doing things with the college students in ways that we haven't done before. That will be great. I will share a meal with any of you whenever you want to share a meal. And I'll even pay for my own or yours. But the idea is, again, you're spending time together, not in this auditorium. And that's where you build these relationships. And then the Welcome Neighbor program. So this is the first morning that I was involved in it. And this morning, they brought 2 visitor cards to me. Tom came in and had me go and meet a visitor. We met the visitor, we talked, and we've already scheduled a meeting. And she was really excited to be meeting with us. That's a great program. And if we continue that, we're going to grow the congregation, because all of you have visited congregations, if you're like me, where you walked in, nobody said anything to you. You walked out and you said, that's an unfriendly congregation. What we want them to do is have to fight their way out of this congregation, because there's so many people standing around talking to them, getting to them and welcoming them. And that Welcome Neighbor program is a wonderful way to do that. And so I would encourage you to take part in that program. After today's morning service, 2 different couples came to me and said, Dave, we want to go on those visits with y'all. That's absolutely awesome. And anybody that wants to go, you're welcome to go. I might not get to eat as much, but if you look at me, you'll see that that's probably a good thing. But anybody that wants to go is welcome to go with me on these visits, because it's a great way to get to know each other and to get to know new people as well. And so the whole idea of this practical application goes back to that 3rd bullet. All of this is to develop and strengthen the next generation of God's soldiers and this generation. Because everything that we've talked about, if you are involved, I promise you, you will grow spiritually by being involved. You will help others grow, but you will grow spiritually as well. And so as you hear about these programs and you see these events and you are interested in any of this, please come let me know, and I can connect you with the deacons that are going to be in charge of that. You may not have signed up for these sorts of things in Realm, but I promise you, we will get you connected if that's what you want to do. This evening, before we close, we haven't really talked about the idea of salvation, but all of us are here because we want to be saved. All of us are here because we want to spend eternity in heaven. All of these ideas are around that idea that all of us can spend time in heaven together. The first step to get there, though, is baptism. And if you haven't been baptized for remission of sins, then you're not there yet. And we would love to baptize you this evening so Christ can add you to his church. If you believe that he's the Christ, the Son of God, or want to repent and confess and be baptized, then you can be part of this church family as well. Most of us here tonight, or many of us here tonight, have already been baptized. But sometimes we need prayer. Sometimes we need help from our fellow members of the congregation. And if you need that help tonight, if you'll let us know, if you're either one of those situations, please let us know as we stand and sing.